Hey, I'm Kelly Hogan, and welcome back to my Zero Carb Life. So, there has been quite a bit of discussion in the carnivore space about whether or not we need to ever add back carbs, or if we should be so dogmatic about nobody can add back carbs. Just a lot of who needs to, who doesn't need to. Carbs are not necessary. Well, they were for me. Okay. And I shared recently on Instagram and also a video here about how, for me, this is not about rules or dogma or trying to win the strictest carnivore ever award. It's literally some of us eat this way because we need to. And because we need to, we're going to find a way to make this awesome, right? We're going to celebrate it, not as a way of putting other people down who don't need to. If you don't need to eat an all meat diet, I am nothing but happy for you. If you feel better eating some other way, I all I want is for you to feel good. There's no rule book that I care about. I just literally want to eat in a way that I feel my absolute best, and I hope the same for you, whatever that may be. Well, when I recently put this story up on Instagram, I included a bunch of faces of people who I just have heard their story enough to know that they really do need to eat this way for their health, that they've tried. They've tried lean meats with rice and vegetables and fruits. It did not work for them. So now they eat this way, but with no hard feelings towards people who eat another way. It's all good. Well, Angela reached out to me. She was on this story and she said, thanks for including me and for tagging me. And she went on to tell me more of her story. And that's why I brought her here today. So let's bring on Angela. So we've met before in person at least once at Meat Stock, twice at Meat Stock. Yes.
Yeah.
I knew I loved you. I just don't know as much about your story as I'd like to. So I'm going to learn today while you share with others. Why are you not going to be adding back a lot of carbs today, at least? We're not saying never. We're just saying can't right now.
I had a lifelong history of mysterious symptoms, mysterious diagnoses, and I never really understood the root cause of where they were coming from because, back in the 80s and the 90s and growing up in a really small town in Pennsylvania, you know, there was no such thing as root cause healing. It was, oh, I'm having a symptom. I'm having a chronic strep throat, chronic sinus infections, chronic hormonal issues, chronic digestive issues. And you'd go to your doctor, they'd slap a prescription, they send you on your way, your prescription runs out, you're back in the doctor having another symptom. And it was just my vicious cycle. I missed a lot of school.
Oh,
I was late for school a lot because I was so fatigued. Let's fast forward. 2013 hits and I get diagnosed with breast cancer. I was 28 years old.
my gosh.
I had no family history of cancer. At the same time, it was like 4 months before my diagnosis, I got diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder in my esophagus, and it's called eosinophilic esophagitis. Now, what that can do is it can impair your swallowing. It can cause impactions where you feel like you're choking, but it can also affect your whole, immune system as well. So I was having some weird issues prior to that diagnosis. I was having some tingling and numbness, and we didn't know what was going on. I mean, that was kind of my whole life has been like that. Well, we don't really know what's causing it, but here we can give you this to mask your symptom. Nobody ever talked to me about my diet. Nobody ever talked to me about my lifestyle, of my emotions. That was never the never the conversation in any doctor's office that I went to. When I got diagnosed with breast cancer, it really kind of came out of left field. I just want to just make a quick statement here that if you are noticing any abnormalities in your breast and your mammogram and your ultrasound are coming back normal, listen to your intuition, listen to that voice, because once I had an MRI done, that's when everything lit up. They found the tumor. But from that diagnosis, I had a unilateral mastectomy, and I was guided to go on the cancer diet. And if we know anything about cancer diets, it's very high in plant foods. I never 100% gave up meat. I would allow myself to have some chicken breasts or some chicken once in a while. It was only like, this big, like from a mouth,
Oh,
but the rest was smoothies. I made a lot of smoothies and juices and a lot of lentils and chickpeas. I have to say that as I was doing that, I started noticing that I was feeling more inflamed. My skin, I remember having hives all over my face, and I was getting severely constipated. I had bleeding hemorrhoids.
oh, dude.
And I was like, I don't think that this is the right diet, but I kept with it for a while. And then I thought, well, maybe I should experiment with Whole30 and paleo. But then I would do it for a couple months and I would freak out, Kelly, and say, I'm having too much meat.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, this isn't right because I was so convinced that meat was the demon, meat was the enemy and the plants were the healers, and I could not have been any more wrong.
So it wasn't that you were having any negative reactions when you had the meat. It was just sort of a guilty, this can't be right. It's too much meat because of people
Yeah.
telling you that. Okay.
Yes,
Oh,
yes. And so I'm really learning about how like veganism is really like that's the answer.
oh,
And so I'm literally destroying my health. And then I ended up having, after moving in with my at the time boyfriend, we discovered I had this something called thoracic outlet syndrome, which is basically my clavicle was compressing with my top cervical rib. And it was compressing on my brachial plexus nerve and my subclavian artery. And I had to get this top rib surgically removed. And I didn't realize that my immune system was so compromised because A, I wasn't properly giving it the right nutrition. And I learned that I was living in a home that was very water damaged. So my
oh,
immune system was super low. I also didn't know at the time, but I had undiagnosed Lyme disease. Then from there, I kept passing out. I was passing out 15 times a day at this point. Now I had a German Shepherd Husky mix. He knew how to get me out of out of the bed or off the couch, take me to the bathroom. He would know how to help me stand up, if like to stand up from getting off the toilet. And he started to pick up the signals of when my blood pressure would drop. And because my blood pressure would drop to like 80 over 40 or 79 over 46. I mean, it was super low. And
yeah.
he knew to bark at me and say, Mom, sit down.
Oh,
When I had breast cancer, I didn't know at the time I had something called mast cell activation syndrome, which is a histamine intolerance. So I started having anaphylactic reactions to every plant food that I was putting into my body. I'm literally just having these anaphylactic reactions. I'm stabbing myself with an EpiPen multiple times a week, getting, ambulanced out of my home to the point where I was just like, don't even ambulance me out anymore. Like, let me just die because I didn't know what was wrong. My doctors that I was seeing said that this was a autonomic dysfunction and that I was going to have to live with this for the rest of my life. And
oh,
I was like, I'm at that time, I was 35 years old. I'm 40 now. So I'm like, I'm 35 years old. How can this be?
yeah.
I told him, I was like, you know what? I said, I don't think I'm going to last much longer. And so I really decided at that point, I was like, you know what? I have a background in holistic health. I'm going to take back my power. I'm going to stop listening to what everyone else says, and I'm going to figure out what works for me. I remember sitting um, at my kitchen table with my mom in Pennsylvania, and I said, the only thing that I'm really not reacting to is meat. I called over 500 farms in the country to find low histamine, non-aged meat, which I found, which was Billy Doe meats. Do you
Yes.
remember I made you with some brain?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we had brain and I
I
think
think kidney. I think it was brain and kidney that I
brain and
made.
kidney. We sat and ate it together and it was
Yes, we
actually
did.
quite delicious. And that was from Billy Doe.
Yeah, yeah, yes. So I I started on this low histamine meat journey, which turned into a low histamine meat with organs. I started doing nose to tail because I was so nutrient deficient. I was so underweight. I had no muscle, I had no nothing, and my nervous system was so dysregulated from passing out all the time. My carnivore journey started in February 2021. And so we're now approaching almost 5 years.
Yeah. I think that's so amazing that you realized I react to everything except meat. I came to that realization myself when it was around 5 years of almost carnivore. I realized I'm still having some issues and I'm eating mostly meat, but just little bits of this, or this. And I think even that's bothering me. Cut all that out, eat only meat, and suddenly, like, all systems check. Felt
Yes,
better.
yes. And it's funny because I didn't even know there was such a thing as a carnivore diet. I actually sat and prayed on it. And I swear, like, it was like a message that came directly through. And it was like God saying to me, Angela, you don't have any energy right now. Like, you need to conserve all of your energy. Just eating a steak, cooking a steak is going to make your life so much easier. So it was just like this epiphany of eat the meat.
Yes.
It's going to heal you, it's going to save your life. And I still wasn't trusting that. So I went on Google and I'm Googling, can I survive off of just eating meat?
Me too. That's so cool. That's exactly what I typed in 2009 Google search. Can you live eating only meat? Yeah.
Yeah,
What did you find?
I found you.
Oh,
I found you. I found Michaela Peterson. I found Sean Baker, and I found Paul Saladino because he was in his carnivore era at that
yes.
time. It's like, okay, wow, these all these people look really healthy. And then Michaela Peterson's story was so similar to me. I was always on different sleep schedules, being so sick. So then I ended up finding a whole community in the UK. So for years, I started connecting, like actually talking to everybody in the UK carnivore community. So I then ended up making it my goal that, here I can barely walk to the bathroom at this point. I'm so sick, and I'm telling my mom, when I get better, I'm going to travel Europe for 3 months by myself.
That's a big goal
And
for a sick girl.
yeah. And she's like, I'm like, I'm gonna go backpacking through Europe. And she goes, can we backpack to the bathroom first without you falling over? I had to have a why. I had to have
Yes.
a why. My why had to be so big because it was my dream ever since I was a child to go to Europe, and I never got to do it just because of all my weird, mysterious health issues. And 9/11 happened when I was in high school, so that kind of took everything out. And then life events, college, and then getting sick with breast cancer. It was like I had so much robbed from me. And so, since I've been carnivore, I've just been eating only ruminant meat. So I don't eat any chicken or pork or eggs. I solely just eat goat, lamb, veal, beef, bison, and venison. Also the organ meat, which for me is essential because I do have the MTHFR variant. So um, I don't convert folate that well, and organs are super high in folate. There are so many people that are chronically ill and nutriently depleted and are suffering from histamine issues. And when you're going through that, the organ meat if you get, for example, if you do sweetbreads, which are high in the DAO enzymes, and so is kidney and liver, like those things can really make a difference if you're so nutriently depleted, because the lower you are in nutrients, the higher your histamine bucket can be as well. So it can be really beneficial. But as I healed, I don't need to have it as much as I did
I
before.
see. Okay. Now that's great to know. I'm definitely going to be linking how people can get in touch with you specifically if they are struggling with how to eat to just survive. This is not
Yeah.
about, hey, I'd really like to drop that last 10 to 15 pounds. I mean, sure, I'm sure you have some tips for weight loss. Same here. But that's not why we started eating this way.
That's right. That's right. We're here for our health.
Yeah,
Like our meat is our medicine to me.
right.
I look at my food as medicine. And so my everyone's like, well, do you change your diet? And I said, of course I do, but it's not the way that you think. It doesn't to me, changing my diet doesn't mean that I'm adding carbs in. It means, oh, maybe I'm upping the fat in certain times. Maybe I'm adding more organ meat. Maybe I'm eating more lamb and goat, because lamb and goat are lower in histamine, whereas beef is a little, regardless, even if beef is not aged, it can still be harder for people to digest. So, like, sometimes, it depends on what my body needs. And I feel like if anything, carnivore has done, maybe for you too, is like it's helped me really understand what it means to eat intuitively, because we're like going with what our body needs.
Yeah.
And for me, it doesn't need carbohydrates.
I keep hearing people say lately that going carnivore can be very stressful to the system. I'm like, well, it does not feel stressful to me because I am no longer having stabbing pains after I eat. That was stressful. I'm no longer getting, boils and skin issues, and you're no longer passing out 15 times a day. That was
Yeah,
stressful. Eating
yeah,
meat and feeling pain free, that to
yeah,
me, and I'm not here to say that there aren't people who feel less stressed or sleep better if they add in carbohydrates. There are clearly people thriving out there on many different diets. We're just saying we're not one of them that can just say, you know what, I lost the weight, or weight is good
get my
now.
health back.
Yeah, now we can just go back to eating anything we want. Like, no?
I I agree, and I think that sometimes that, and maybe you get this too, but it's like they say that, well, your diet's so limiting,
Oh,
and I get that a lot. And I kind of look at them and like, let me show you pictures of the last 15 years of my life and how limiting that was. Let me
yeah.
show you what it was like to live in a hospital bed. Let me show you what it was like to to spend more time laying on the floor because
Oh,
I was passing out and missing out on birthdays and weddings and memorable vacations and all the things that everybody else within my age bracket got to experience. I mean, I I'm not even, I'm not married, I don't have children, I lost my boyfriend, I lost like everything. It was like I had to go back to literally bare bones and restart my entire life. And so to me, carnivore gave me my life back. And it's why I'm so passionate about it. And I did go to Europe. I went to Europe literally a year ago during this time. And it ended up being really carnivore focused, because I ended up going to England. I ended up traveling around the entire country. I got to meet all of my UK friends,
no
and
way.
I did, and some of them invited me to stay with them. And we had two carnivore meetups. So I got to meet people just that I had known for so long. It was just so wonderful. And then I ended up going to a carnivore retreat in Spain with Phil Escott and Dr. Chafee. It was so, I was like, wow, I didn't even plan this to
Yeah.
be a carnivore event. It was, but how wonderful to kind of have this full capacity, this full circle. I was like, I could write a book just about all the meat that I got to try.
Well, you need to write a book, just period, about this, about your story. I'm so thankful that you came here to share it. I've got a question about histamines. You mentioned how important it has been for you to eat the organ meats. And I have heard that from other people as well, including Rebecca. I have heard some folks just in the last year or so talking about when it comes to histamine issues, the importance or value in taking large amounts of vitamin C. Do you do that? Was it helpful?
I don't.
You don't.
I
Okay.
don't. I feel best when I'm eating foods like sweetbreads, which are not that they naturally have vitamin C.
Okay.
Um, Liver, I feel better with that, and heart or kidney. So that's kind of my like that's my medicine, my
Yeah.
organ, my medicine.
That's great. I do have a good friend who has struggled with histamines. If her histamine load, you described it as a bucket, right? Like if
Yes.
she has leftovers and then
Yes.
she uses some chemicals, if she has meat like from a buffet that's been sitting exposed, canned meat, aged meat, smoked meat, certain cheeses, it builds up and she'll be like, oh, I handled that okay and that okay until suddenly it's like, okay, I'm not okay. And
Yeah.
she has found that vitamin C, it does seem to help her. So I think it's worth looking into whether it's IV version or just
Yep.
from organ meats or
Mhm.
maybe from a supplement if you find one that helps.
Absolutely. One other supplement that I really recommend this even more than vitamin C to my clients is quercetin. That's a great mast cell stabilizer. And I think that's even better than vitamin C,
Okay.
especially if you're carnivore. Um, because there's so many, I mean, I think that vitamin C could be such a great antihistamine,
Mhm.
but it the quercetin, even if you kind of took them together, is a great at for anti-inflammatory. Even though I've healed a lot and I can eat aged meats again, there
Oh,
are a few things that I struggle with. I still cannot do smoked meat.
okay.
I've tried and it's too much.
Yeah.
But, if you gave me a 50-day dry aged steak, I can eat it. I love it now.
Great. Okay.
What a lot of people need to know is they need to find the root cause. And that's my like where I focus right now with my clients is I want to help them find the root cause because we weren't created to just have these histamine issues.
Right.
So we got to find out why we're having it. And for women, a lot of women I'm noticing, and from what I'm learning through my own experience and just from my own research, estrogen can cause histamine buildup. So if you like a lot of women, like a few days before their cycle, can have extreme histamine issues. And it's mostly when they become more like perimenopausal. It's in
Mm.
the like 30s and 40s is when they're when that happens before their cycle. And I've seen it within myself too. I'm like, oh, okay, I can understand now because I've got some of the infections on under control. If
Yes.
I'm still having histamine issues, I have to look at where I'm at in my cycle and oh, okay, well, and then it's around that time it starts to be a little wonky.
So, do you have any tips on how women could deal with that? Do you have anything that you do differently when you realize, oh, it's the part of my cycle, estrogen is higher, and I'm feeling more of a histamine flare?
I focus on my drainage pathways and my lymphatic system. So you could either do a vibration plate
Yes.
to like, those things that vibrate.
Yeah.
If you don't have one of those, it's okay. You can do it. I always encourage movement. Movement. We want to get your lymphatic system moving, but
Yeah.
we also want to focus on dry brushing and opening up your termini or termini. I never know. So
Yeah.
that's like where we've got lymph nodes here. So you want to like, I either tap on them or you can massage them or here, massage here, your armpits, your groin, your knees. Oh, and here, your
Belly.
sternum area,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? So, and then when you do that, like, because you also want to open up your lymphatic system that's in your brain, that's where the fluid needs to drain through your lymphatic system. So everything needs to be open. And I always recommend doing that before you dry brush or before you even get on a vibration plate, because when you have this buildup of lymphatic fluid, the body's not circulating these toxins out of you, the estrogen out of you.
Yeah.
And you also want to make sure that you know, your drainage pathways are open too. So make sure that you are pooping regularly. I know as carnivores, we don't go to the bathroom that often, but I often recommend at least taking some sort of magnesium or something that you want to eliminate, because our bowels do absorb estrogen. So if we're not pooping enough, we're going to reabsorb that estrogen. And that's one thing actually carnivore has helped me tremendously with. I used to suffer severely with constipation and slow motility, gastroparesis, and now like I can go to the bathroom very easily.
I did not used to, as a carnivore, go very often. And I was told that's okay because we don't have all that fiber to push out and it's fine. But I heard Danny Conway a few years ago say, look, I'm not here to tell you how many times you have to poop per week, but I am going to say that it is the primary way that we get estrogen out of our body. It's a
Yeah,
primary detox pathway. And if you're only going once every week or two, it could become problematic. And she taught me about castor oil packs.
yeah. That was what I was about to say. Yeah,
Awesome. So
yeah,
I started putting about a tablespoon of castor oil on my belly, and I would go to bed at night or for the last 45 minutes of the night before
yeah.
I went to bed, and it would slowly absorb. And I started going more often. And now I have not had to use the castor oil pack in probably a year. I stayed regular even after I quit using it. I thought that was
That's
so cool,
amazing.
right?
That is amazing. Yes, I mean, I would go and get colonics done when I was going through my treatments, just because, you're killing so much stuff off. I made sure I was, and that's something, if you've got to make sure that you're sweating, you're going to the bathroom, you're moving. And then I also recommend you could take something called calcium deglucarate. It's just a natural supplement. It helps you detox
Okay.
estrogen. It supports phase two detoxification pathway, but
Okay.
also a binder. I recommend either like zeolite clay or humic and fulvic acid. Those are my top two that I love. Binders can be so essential, especially if you're traveling and you don't really know what you're being exposed to. If you don't, I don't think that regardless of whether you have CIRS, which is what I have CIRS.
Right.
I don't care who you are. I don't think that it's safe for anybody to be exposed to mold or
Right.
or
Yeah.
toxic pathogens. So whether you're detoxing estrogen or a pathogen that you were exposed to, I think that being on some sort of natural binder can support the body in so many ways. Just make sure you don't take it near your food. I always say either take it in the morning or at night, or a couple hours away before you eat.
Have you gone through the 12-step shoemaker protocol? Was that necessary for you or just some of the binders?
I didn't do well with the cholestyramine. I didn't do well with the well call. The shoemaker protocol is like the can be like the end all be all for many people. I did get into remission with
Awesome.
with my binders without any cholestyramine. But my biggest thing that I felt like helped me, regardless of the binders, was keeping my meats as low as histamine as possible and making sure that I was doing what I was just saying. Like I was sweating every day. I was,
Yes.
moving every day. I was dry brushing every day, castor oil packs every day,
Yes.
even meditation and praying just to get my nervous system regulated, and being out in nature, grounding, like sunlight, and then circadian rhythm. I forgot to bring up that is so
Yes.
important for histamine. I also really believe in chiropractic work. I think that chiropractic work can be very good to align your nervous system.
Right.
I learned a lot about the circadian rhythms and infrared light and getting up while watching the sunrise,
Yeah.
and then microdosing sunlight throughout the day and then watching the sun set. There are certain things that I do that are non-negotiable, which is my diet.
Okay. Oh,
I
we
love
didn't mention in connection with CIRS, we didn't talk about why this carnivore thing is so important for folks with CIRS, but one of the main reasons is it eliminates amylose.
yeah,
Amylose being only in plants. And when you're consuming all these, as you were, because you thought you were doing the right thing, plants, 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 more and more amylose. And those with CIRS do not handle that well at all.
yeah,
So if anybody's wondering, why does it seem like people in the carnivore space talk so much about CIRS, chronic inflammatory response syndrome, for those that don't know? Well, that's why, because we found that eating only meat makes us feel better.
right, right. And I think that's also what keeps me from reintroducing these plant foods back into my diet.
Yeah.
I have a very lustful energy and life. Like I love to live life to the fullest. I choose my hard. I don't think the carnivore diet's hard, but to somebody else, they
Right.
might. When it comes to eating this way, it's like, sure, if I wanted to put myself in a bubble and just kind of not go anywhere, not do anything, maybe I could reintroduce some of those plant foods because I'd be in a controlled environment,
Yeah.
we'll say. But that to me is not my lifestyle. I don't want to sit and think about my environment as much as a lot of people with CIRS do. I mean, there are people
Right.
with CIRS that live in tents and they live in certain places because they have to really make sure that their environment is 100% clear. And I don't want to live in fear
Yes.
that everywhere I go, that I'm going to be exposed to mold.
Right.
So the way I negate that is that I stay true to what's keeping me anti-inflamed. So I
Yeah.
my diet because that's for me it's like what keeps the bucket here. Because
Right.
if I'm eating all these other things, my bucket's going to constantly be here, and one bit of exposure is going to set me off.
Yes. We're just keeping ourselves as strong and at the ready as possible for the things we can control. And
Yes,
and mold is something we can't always control where you're going to go. Yeah.
right,
But at
right.
least our inflammation is down and our strength is up. So hopefully we're more resilient when it happens.
Absolutely, absolutely. People don't understand with CIRS is that it's genetic. It's not like, oh, it's a condition that you have that you get rid of. Well, it's actually a genetic disposition. So if you carry certain genes, you can be more susceptible.
Right.
Like there's a Lyme gene, there's a mold gene. And there's also something called the multi-susceptible gene, which I was so blessed to have. So that's even for me all the more while to
Yeah.
stay carnivore
Yeah.
because I need to.
That's it. Because we need to. This is not, you're not looking at dogma here. We're not two ladies who care what our friends and family eat as long as they're healthy and feeling good. I mean, we care. We want them to get the best nutrition. But this isn't about a rule book or trying to be carnivore enough. It's just, we need to. That's it. And so,
Right.
because of that, we have found ways to make it delicious and fun and exciting. We're going to love it because we got to do it anyway. So, we're going to
That's
make
right.
pictures and wear shirts and
Yeah.
make a community and spend our time with people who get it. And that to me is what it's about, not
I
shaming
agree.
anybody else.
That's right. I mean, we're here to just shed light on the healing that we're receiving. And so
Yes.
people that may be struggling too
Right.
can know that there is some sort of relief. I do eat more fatty meat. I do eat higher fat. Um, I I try to be like moderate on protein, moderate high, but I don't really measure as much. I kind of just
Right.
whatever I'm feeling, I kind of trust my body that at this point she knows what she wants.
All right. I took down some notes. Um, we've covered a lot of territory today. First of all, your story, which was the main thing I wanted to hear, was just how incredible. And I'm just so thankful for how far you have come from being in the bed to hiking around Europe. And when I saw you in person, I'm here to tell you, if there had been a game to like pick the sick person in the room, you would have been the last I would have picked. You exude energy and glow with health. So it's almost impossible to imagine how sick you were. And I'm just so happy for you. So, if any of you are struggling with your health right now, I've jotted down some things. Let's just do a quick review. We've got to get away from the toxin. If that's mold and you're trying to heal in a moldy environment, that's step one of the shoemaker protocol anyway, even if you don't do the whole rest of it. We've got to get away from the mold. She talked about the benefits of having fun, having connection with other people, doing some deep breathing, quiet prayer time. I've heard you talk before about the power of literally allowing your brain to see yourself as healthy and feeling good again.
Yes.
Carnivore to keep our histamine low, avoid that amylose. We talked about some of the lowest histamine foods. And if you are struggling with meat in general, we're going to link to a lot of the things Angela talked about, including Billy Doe meats. Circadian work, as far as trying to get up with the sun, take these little sky breaks throughout the day, block blue light, especially once the sun is down in the evening, dim our lights, and watch the sunset. Sweating, whether that's in a sauna, lifting weights, going out in the sun, doing something to allow our lymphatic system to detox. You talked about lymphatic massage, which I love. I also have a vibration plate, which I love. A rebounder is awesome. Any type of movement, but I've got my mini trampoline, so that's how I watch TV at my house. It's just boing, boing, boing. We didn't mention Epsom salt baths, but that can be
Oh,
a
those are
really,
huge.
yeah, I
Yes.
love them
Sorry,
too.
I forgot to mention that. Yes, twice, 2 to 3 times a week, Epsom salt baths are
And not
very,
like a little scoop. Like you
yes,
need some salt in there. I know Dr.
yes,
Boz recommends like at least half of a bag. She
yes.
pours a lot. Yeah.
I also recommend adding 2 tablespoons of baking soda.
Baking soda. Cool.
Yes,
Okay. I have not done that. You
yep,
did talk about dry brushing
yep. So you want
and
to dry brush before you get in the bath.
okay, perfect. We didn't
Yep.
mention it, but one of the best ways to unstagnate our lymphatic fluid is hydrate. Being
Oh, and
de
hydration. Yes,
Yes, being
yes.
dehydrated is terrible for our lymphatic system and our detoxing. We did talk about castor oil and the benefit of getting our bowels, especially if you are in a detox process, to
Yes.
keep that estrogen low. And you mentioned right before our period is when you feel it the most. So that might be a time you wanted to use whether it's the Epsom salts or the castor oil packs. We did talk about the benefits of the sun and nature. I just went to my chiropractor today. I also love chiropractic care. I think we covered a lot. We just don't want people to stay sick. We've both
Right.
been in pain. Nothing on this earth is fun when you're in pain. For anybody that's hurting or feels alone or you think this is too hard, find somebody else to do it with. Whether
Yeah.
it's Angela, myself, anybody out there who you think is going to celebrate you feeling better. That's what we need.
Yeah.
Just somebody to be thrilled at every step of the way that you're feeling better. Angela, thank you. I could talk to you all day. And frankly, we've talked a long time. So
Yeah. I could
I
talk to you forever.
Yes, it's good. Thanks for coming here. I love your heart and I love all of these things that you've shared today. And I hope to talk to you soon. And I'll see you at Meat Stock
Well, I will see you at Hack Your Health.
in just a few weeks.
Just a few weeks.
Yes. Well, I can't wait to hug it out, my sister.
I
Thank
cannot wait to hug you again and to see you again. I'm so excited. And thank you
you.
so much for allowing me to come on here and share my story with you and your audience. And just thank you for being one of the biggest inspirations of my journey. So thank you so much, Kelly. You
Thank
are
you.
such a love, and my heart is full for you. So,
Oh, thank you. All right. I'll see you in a few weeks.
okay.
Okay. Bye.